Hello there, Sloan's Lakers. Thanks for taking some time to listen in for a little Q&A. Thank you so much to all those who came out to our Earth Day event. We had so many great questions and discussion, just informing people about this wonderful lake, some of the challenges it has, and some of the solutions that we proposed to help it out. From that event, we got a couple more follow-up questions and some questions that evening. We wanted to follow up to then commit to you to get the information into your hands around it. So I'm going to dive right in here to the Q&A, but please keep your questions coming to us. We'll do these Q&As every once in a while to make sure that we keep informing you about what's going on. And again, if we don't know the answer, we're going to chase it down for you because we want to make sure everybody has all the information. So first up, question was, why not let Sloan's Lake stagnate? Why not just let it fill in and make it a green space in a park? Couple reasons for this. Number one is this is not just a beautiful lake for us to recreate around, it is also a floodplain. And so Sloan's Lake is a floodplain for the entire region. It has governance for that floodplain with Denver floodplain, with the Mile High Flood District, and with FEMA at the federal level. So Sloan's Lake, at its current water level where you see it now, can raise 2.5 feet before the water spills out. What that means is it's a 100-year floodplain and water mitigation in case there ever was a flood in this area. So it's a very important piece of water for us, not just because, again, we recreate around it, but also for things like flooding and, again, water rights and those who are utilizing the water in here in Colorado. So we can't let it fill in, and we don't want to let that fill in and get rid of this amazing lake. Next question, what is a watershed? And so watershed is an interesting item to reference. There's two ways to look at the watershed for Sloan's Lake. First is what's under the earth. We share a watershed, and so watershed is basically shared water underneath us. How big is that area where that water all comes from the same source? And it's one way to look at a watershed is what is underneath the ground, and we're all in the same area pulling from that same area of water. The second way to look at this is what's above ground. What basically flows downhill into Sloan's Lake, and that's a real easy way to think about it. As you look west, of course, everything's a little uphill from us, even east a little bit of uphill that flows back into Sloan's Lake. So right now in our watershed, it contains Denver, Wheat Ridge, Edgewater, Lakewood, and parts of Jeffco are all in the Sloan's Lake watershed, and that water from those areas is running off and flowing into Sloan's Lake. So our watershed right now, we consider the Sloan's Lake watershed. We're also part of a bigger watershed called the Bar Milton watershed. Very interesting if you want to look up the Bar Milton watershed and read about that. Next question up was what would happen with the methane production? So we mentioned methane production at the meeting. Stagnating water is a big producer of methane. Methane is a very dangerous greenhouse gas. It's on Denver's climate change reporting, and they want to make sure we don't have more methane happening. So stagnating water, like a puddle on the sidewalk in the hot sun, what happens in there is stagnating water creates the algae and other things that give off methane. If Sloan's Lake was to stagnate, a 177-acre wide lake, that would produce a massive amount of methane, hopefully something we will never ever see here in Denver or at Sloan's Lake. But it would be a massive methane producer if we let it stagnate. It's already on the way there now, but that's why we are doing our work to make sure that does not happen. Next question, what is a forebay? So forebays are basically filtration items. And so it's a easy, simple forebay filter to make sure that sediment doesn't run into the lake. Think about it as a bowl of water right here and then another big bowl of water. Water flows from runoff in the streets and everywhere else that it is into the first bowl of water. As the water flows in there, the sediment settles down to the bottom and only the clean water spills over the top into the second bowl. That first thing right there is a forebay. So what we have is in this area on the north side of the lake, there's currently one forebay where the pelican head statue is, if you want to see what it looks like. That forebay, everything flows in there, the sediment settles down, and only clean water then flows into the lake. We then clean out that sediment every year to make sure that it's getting cleaned out and there's room for more sediment in there. That's an easy way and probably the easiest filter there is to make sure more sediment doesn't end up in Sloan's Lake. As part of the bond, thanks to the voters out there for the Denver Vibrant Bond, $5 million got tagged for Sloan's Lake, and a chunk of that money is going to be used for forebays on the south ditch where the bridge is and on the north ditch that runs just under the road by the Lakeview Inn. Next question, in a drought, what happens to Sloan's Lake and what's the issues? Of course, drought is not good for any of us anywhere, but Sloan's Lake is already at dangerously low water levels. The drought really is affecting Sloan's Lake now. We usually don't see water levels like this until July, August, even into September, when the water is running low all around the state. But right now it is at one of its lowest levels it's been. Unfortunately, what that means is come the hot sun in the summer and our hot summer months, you're probably going to see some more stagnation, some more fish kills, less oxygen in the water, meaning more blue-green algae. So it's one of those things that's kind of a unfortunate nature of a drought, is that it just compounds the same problem Sloan's Lake already sees. So we're really trying to work to make sure it's going to be as healthy as we can, but the drought is going to affect us probably negatively as we look forward to this year. Thanks again for your questions. We really appreciate them. Keep them coming in. We'll make sure that we address this every time in our deep dive newsletter. We'd love to have you join us for a couple of things we have upcoming. We've got 2 cleanups a month. Find them on our cleanups page at our website. So come on out and help us keep Sloan's Lake clean. We also have the putt-putt bar crawl with Sloan's Lake wide open. So come on out and join us for the most fun event, while all the proceeds of this goes to then making sure that we can keep operating this foundation and keep getting Sloan's Lake cleaned up. Thanks so much for your time and energy. We'd love to see you at our next event, and see you out at Sloan's Lake.